Satnam, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to another in our continuing series, Home Kirtan and Chat. And today I am so excited to have as our guest Bhai Sahib from Australia. And just before we get to talk with him, I want to introduce him to you a little bit. Some of you may know him well, and some of you may not. Bhai Sahib has spent 3 decades or more singing Kirtan in Gurdwaras and performing his style of cross-cultural Kirtan in Western festivals and other events around the world. His music group members, they come from a diverse range of cultures and religious backgrounds. Bhai Sahib has taken the singing of Gurbani Kirtan outside of the confines of the Gurdwaras and the Sikh Sangats, where he has gained tremendous popularity and notoriety. And he was voted Vocal Artiste of the Year at the Australian Multicultural Arts Award in the year 2000. He has, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe he's recorded over 26 albums of music. And so just before we speak to him, he's with us already, but before we speak to him, I want to share with you his latest creation. And it's a video. It's the first ever Gurbani Kirtan with English rendition in what is called mosaic form. And you'll see when I play the video what that refers to. And it is sung by over 35 different voices from Australia and around the world. And it is a production of Sikh Youth Australia. But really, when you see it, you'll realize this project has been an act of seva during this time of COVID-19 isolation, in that it really helps to connect us all together. So without further ado, and hopefully without any technical issues, here is Mere Naal Hai, or My God is With Me.
I'd just written to Manpreet, and saying Dad was just thinking of doing da-la-la-la.
And here we are back, and I am so glad to welcome Bhai Sahib with us today. Bhai Sahib, how are you doing today?
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa,
Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Satnam Ji, Prithpal Singh Ji, what a pleasure to see you again. And yes, I have just turned 70 and I'm feeling on top of the world.
Fantastic.
Pandemic or not, I'm still feeling on top of the world.
Well, that's fantastic. With everything going on today, if you can say that, then everything is good. So this new release that was just released yesterday or today, it's fantastic.
Thank you.
And I say that it really touches people, I think, and will really help people feel connected at this time.
Thank you. Thank you.
So this line of Gurbani, how did you decide that this was what you wanted to sing and put it out right now?
My projection since I went into Gurbani over the last 30 odd years has always been youth. I think of the youth. How do you make Gurbani, for want of a better word, palatable to the younger generation? Mm-hmm. Music is a vehicle. I mean, we have our own traditional music. We have rag music. We have traditional Punjabi folk songs. But the youth of today, especially in the diaspora, are more sort of multicultural. They have influences from different parts. They listen to different kinds of music. So Gurbani does not give us any kind of restriction as to what direction we can move in. And as you would have noticed that I have even used some translations being sung. Normally when you have translations, you don't normally sing them with the Gurbani. But this is a sort of a new venture to say, look, you can get into the spirit of the Shabad by just understanding the gist of it. And a few words in English can introduce the gist of the Shabad, and the rest of the feeling and the emotion of the spirit of the Shabad is carried through by the music. And most importantly, I always try and involve youngsters in it. There's no such thing as nobody, and only professionals can sing Gurbani. There's no such thing. I never turned professional. I just enjoy my Gurbani, and I believe youngsters can do the same. And I think this video is a proof that any youngsters can actually start singing and get a sense of belonging with their Guru.
I think one of the biggest impressions that people will get from watching this video is how the families are shown singing together.
That's right.
Children, parents, grandparents, whatever, you know, and that really touched deeply for me. Yes. So are all these people related to you, or you just know them as friends? And
Sikh Youth Australia is an organization which we started about 25 years ago, based in Sydney. I'm based in Melbourne. And these are members who have been coming for our youth camps. We have a Gurmat camp in the beginning of the year, and we have a leadership camp for them in the middle of, in the beginning of the year. In the middle of the year, we have a leadership camp. So these are youngsters who have been brought up with the youth camp. And in fact, the youngsters who started with us 25 years ago are the ones who are now running it. So we are the elder statesmen. We can now sit back and watch the younger generations. So there was a time I was called Veer Daya Singh. Then I started getting called Uncle Daya Singh. Now I'm called Grandfather Daya Singh. So I'm Nana. Everyone calls me Nana because I have got daughters who have got their children and they call me Nanaji. So I am now Nana. So we are looking at 3 generations, and some of the kids you would have noticed are very young. They are from the 3rd generation who actually call me Nana Daya Singh. So this is the sort of continuity that we want, and also trying to bridge the gap between generations so that everyone can get involved in it.
Well, speaking of bridging the gap, your release that came out earlier in May, I think at the very beginning of the month, Guru Nanak, No Worries? Is that what it's called?
Nanak Chinta Mat Karo.
Yes. The
Nanak
shepherd.
Chinta Mat Karo, yes.
Right, but
Yes.
the English title, I think, was Nanak, No Worries. Yes, that's
Nanak,
very
no worries.
good. Yeah.
That's right.
And, you know, for people not familiar with the Australian sensibility, no worries is not that familiar. But once you understand the concept, then it's
That's right.
very clear. And
It's
of
part
course,
of the part of the culture of Australia. No
yeah,
worries, man.
exactly.
No worries.
Yeah. No, it's perfect for this time. And also it has a very catchy tune, you know,
Yes.
very easy for people to pick up. So
Yes.
well, that was very wonderful
Yeah,
too.
it's based on West Indian calypso music. The
Yeah,
same drum music.
Yeah, the melody I think is also from Bobby McFerrin. Don't worry, be happy.
Don't
happy,
worry, be
yeah.
happy. That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly. But it all fits, you know.
Oh, it is.
And all musicians borrow. Good musicians borrow well, you know.
They do.
Like
That's
they
right.
select the right things to borrow.
Exactly.
So I also wanted to let people know about this book that
Yes.
you came out with.
Jamil, can I have a copy?
Yeah,
Yes.
seeking success and happiness.
Yes.
And then they've been reading these chapters on YouTube as well,
That's right.
as another way that people can get access to this wonderful information.
Yes.
So how did you come to writing this book?
Well, I have always looked upon Sikhism as a tool for self-improvement. I've never really looked at it as a religion because religion has got some certain overtones, undertones, you know, which makes it not cool. So to me, Sikhi has always been a tool for self-improvement, and I was very fortunate to meet Dr. Deepak Chopra in 1996. He came to Australia with Michael Jackson. And Dr. Deepak Chopra is also Punjabi. And in conversation with him, he made mention, he said, you know what, all the secrets for self-improvement are there in the Guru Granth Sahib. He said, the trouble is you Sikhs have turned it into a religion. He said it jokingly. And I took that as a sort of a cue to say, hang on a minute, if that is the case then we should really start looking at Sikhi as a form of self-improvement. And don't get me wrong, one of the major factors in self-improvement is spirituality and Nam Simran, meditation. Right? Even the great gurus of self-improvement like Stephen Covey, Eckhart Tolle, these days they talk a great deal about spirituality. So I guess this book was a labor of love. It took me about 20 years to write it, but I have enjoyed writing it because it is a method for younger generations especially to get in touch with their inner self and also get in touch with the Guru as a form of self-improvement. Don't forget that in Sikhi, we do not attain salvation after death, you know. we get emancipation in this lifetime. So if that is the case, then we should strive towards self-improvement in a spiritual way so that we have a fruitful life, a successful life materially as well as spiritually. So that's what this book is all about, really. And I've written two more. And I've written two more, by the way.
Just in these 10 minutes, I think you've been writing those two extra books.
Exactly.
You know, I have known you for at least 15, 20 years, different ways in different places. And I know you to be a very dedicated person. So I can imagine that that writing this book has been something that has been very meaningful for you to get these messages out. And I think that we should all look forward to whatever other books that you're coming out with.
Thank you.
And I really want to know from you what's next on the horizon.
More of the same, really. You see, don't forget where these books are concerned. They are not only for others; they are also for me. I'm teaching myself.
Yeah,
A Sikh never stops learning, and
exactly.
whatever I pick up, then I present it to others. This Mosaic Shabad is a fine example of what we knew we could be achieved. And I'm very fortunate that I have the right people around me. I'm very fortunate to have a great daughter. Jamil is the one who put all this mosaic together. She has started learning sound engineering, and she's the one who actually put it all together. And then I have got very good musicians around me who help me out. But otherwise, it's come to the stage where I do things on my own, and especially because of the pandemic, it has given us the opportunity of doing more things along sort of collaborations like this. So as I said, there are 2 books in the pipeline already. And now we are thinking in terms of the next mosaic Shabad. I don't know. I've been looking at a number of other Shabads. We might do the simple Mool Mantra. We might do the Penthi, Uda Eda. One of the other principles that I have is the KISS principle. Keep it simple, Sardarji. We have a tendency of complicating things. I do not get into deep arguments or debates on spiritual aspects or religious aspects of Sikhi. I try not to get into those. Sometimes they look quite humorous to me because they're such a waste of time, really. It's a question of, like the Nike ad, just do it. So when it comes to Simran, do it. If someone says this might be worthwhile doing, it's never too late to start trying that. Nithanem, somebody says do the Nithanem, all right? Do it. Somebody says do Simran in this particular way. Do it. Try it. Experiment with it. We get all these new fads coming into our gurudwaras in Australia. You know, some guys will come from the United States or from the UK. They will dress in medieval clothing. And then they'll say, oh, no, you must not say Vaheguru, you must say Vahguru. You know, and you must not say Satnam. You know, that's, you are smiling. I think you know what I'm talking about.
I've been there many times.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have. But as long as it touches you, I think that's what you need to do. So it's my own spiritual journey is an experiential one in that sense. In fact, the second book is called The Zen of Seeking. The idea being that it must be experiential. And to try and put that across to the younger generation, that first of all, you must search for it yourself. Do not take someone else's word for it. Listen. Listen. If it gels with you, do it. Otherwise, listen, take it on board. But at the end of the day, you are responsible for yourself. And Guruji is there to help you along. It's a very simple message. And more that we can actually put it across to the younger generation, the better. I'm very fortunate. One of my vehicles is the Sikh Youth Australia. They're a fantastic organization. They have given me that opportunity. And of course, I must pay great praise to the Western Dharma. You know, SikhNet, Western Dharma. Simply because your hearts are in the right places. And you are promoting Sikhi. There was a time, no offense meant, it had become a little bit cultish. But if there's anyone who is mainstream now, it is the American Sikhs as far as I'm concerned. And I mean, my last visit to Hispaniola when I met you most recently, it was such an heartwarming thing to see that there was a sincerity. And I think I made mention of this before. For me, the real true spiritual Sangat that I have ever come across is the one in Hispaniola, or the one in Los Angeles at the Gurdwara in very close to Hollywood.
Well, I think it's a worldwide phenomenon, and it's not just in Western Sikhs, but I think that we're seeing even the youth from Punjabi cultures around the world stepping into a new definition of what Sikhi is. And I'm so happy to see that. Bhai Sahib, I need to pause just for a moment. It looks like we were having a few technical issues, and I want to make a change in one setting, and I don't want to lose you. So just stay put for a sec.
No problems. I'll amuse myself with my harmonium.
And we're back. Okay, so so many things I want to ask you, Bhai Sahib. You know, I know that you studied, you learned at the feet of your father, really, and I know that you deeply respect that tradition within Gurbani and the system of rag, and yet you have found your way into another way of connecting to people who may not be able to match with rag only, you know, and that you bring to them a different doorway that allows them to step in and experience Nam, you know, experience the deep experiential aspect of singing Gurbani. And I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about how you found your way to that as a young man 30 years ago.
I was very fortunate to have a wonderful, wonderful father. He was a very enthusiastic, and he'd come from a Jat family, from the agricultural background. But he was always tuned in towards spirituality from a very young age. He picked up his Kirtan from the wandering sadhus. They used to come, you know, settle at different villages. Then wherever the little place that they have where they're settled, they used to burn it down and then move on to another village and then settle there for a month or so and do morning and evening Kirtan, that sort of thing. That's where he started from. And then he was fortunate enough to actually spend 3 years at the Damdami Taksal, where he studied Kirtan Gurbani under various Pandits. Kirtan came to him naturally, so he had different styles of Kirtan, the simple, straightforward, spiritual folk music kind of Kirtan, which a lot of our Brahm Gyanis sing in, simple melodies. And then he also had some classical training in Ambala. So that was his background. And he also wrote spiritual renditions himself. In olden days, the Kavishri form, you know, the Tadsargi type of Kirtan was popular. That's what was popular amongst the villages. And he was very adept at that as well. So I was brought up in that sort of a background. The only difference is that I was born and brought up in Malaysia. He went to Malaysia as a Punjabi school teacher, Gurmat teacher, and then became a Granthi as well. That was my background. So from the age of about 3, I was able to sit down with him, and whenever he used to practice, or even singing in the Gurdwara, I used to be sitting in his lap. So that's my introduction to Kirtan. And the great thing about that was that I was introduced to different kinds of Kirtan. He could sit down with the 2 harmoniums and tabla and do Kirtan. And then the village folks in Malaysia used to say, no, Gyaniji, you have to do it with, you know, the chemtes and the tolkis and the, I used to call it pop Kirtan those days. So then he'll stand up on stage with the harmonium, and then you'll have about 2 tolki players sitting on the side with all the clangers going on, and on top of that he used to raise his voice above. No sound system, by the way, no sound system. Yet he had the ability of throwing his voice above everybody else so that the Sangat could hear. And I, as a young kid, used to sit down and just completely wowed by the whole thing. And I picked up a lot of those things from my father. And conventionally, he did not really teach me anything. I just watched him, and he gave me pointers. In fact, to be very honest, in my teenage years, I became very popular as a singer of Bollywood songs on radio in Malaysia.
I find that very easy to believe.
And you know, those days, Bollywood songs used to be very nice. They used to be classically based. They were semi-classical, but they were classically based. In fact, right now I'm watching a series by Javed Akhtar on the songs of the 50s, the 60s and the 70s, which were classically based, and there was some meaning behind all those songs. And you know, being a Gurmat teacher, he used to sit down and listen to me. In fact, when I started, he didn't even know I was doing it. I was doing it behind his back. But when he found out, he said, why have you hidden that from me? I said, well, Dad, I didn't want you to get angry with me. He said, no, do it. It's an art form. Learn. And then he used to correct even my singing of Hindi songs. He used to correct them.
Oh, yeah.
So why did you do it this way? Why didn't you? I said, well, this is the way the singer sang. He said, well, when is Daya Singh going to start singing? Yeah. You are imitating others. When are you going to start singing? You know, that's the kind of training that I had from him. And then, of course, I was a great fan of Elvis Presley, Bob Marley. I used to love those olden singers. And some of their strains are within my music. So, because you borrow from the best, and unashamedly, you pick up all those ideas. For example, our Mool Mantra became very popular at one stage. In fact, even now, youngsters sing it. It's actually a German folk song, which was also picked up by Elvis Presley, the song Wooden Heart, right? Ekunga Satja Karta Purik Nirvo Nirve Akal Murat Ajuni Samangar Prasad. The idea was to get youngsters enjoying them. And then I've actually had parents say, Bhai Sahib, is it okay? My son, you know, he's 3 years old. When he sits to relieve himself, he starts singing the Mool Mantra. But there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh.
Said, oh, we felt, oh, Gurbani on top of the, you know, potty. No, I said, no. Let him sing it. As they are brushing their teeth in the morning, they are bopping around to this Mool Mantra. There's nothing wrong with it. And that is why the melody became so popular. So they're similar. The Penthi that we have done is along the same lines, where they're very simple melodies. Like, I mean, when we studied when we were young, we studied from nursery rhymes. Baba, black sheep, have you any wool? We learned from those. So why can't Kirtan be introduced in that particular way? And that has been my life's ambition.
But really, you know, if you look at what the gurus did themselves, is that they would take a popular tune, or it was in rag, but it was a tune that the people probably knew already, and that they could then learn these new words, and it would be easy and easy to remember. So it's not something new. It's actually right there in the teaching. So I think that you're just continuing a terrific tradition. And it's so wonderful. I think that there's a cross-pollination going on now, you know, where there are sounds you hear from a Western artist coming into an Eastern recording, and the other way around, you know. And as you said, borrowing is what musicians do, you know. We hear something, it almost nothing is new in music, you know. It's just how you interpret it.
Yeah,
so,
but perhaps that's what's new, you see.
But what's really exactly. But what's really so wonderful about your music is the way that you've been able to blend together different cultural traditions. You know, there are many examples where someone might take a melody and bring it into something else, but you actually brought the musicians together. You know, when I've seen videos of your performances, there are people playing all kinds of instruments. Certainly not the usual instruments that would be played with Gurbani Kirtan in the Gurdwara. And also you can clearly see that these people are coming from different traditions, and how wonderful that is, and how much that emulates what must have happened in the time of Guru Nanak. He himself traveled with a Muslim musician, you know, and so the idea of mixing it up is a way to reinforce the message, right? That we are all one.
That's right. And
in this time, so important.
I think it is. Yeah. Well, look, I have had my run-ins with the purists. I've spent my whole life having run-ins with them, where because they know I can do the classical Kirtan. I can do that, yes, and I love it. Don't get me wrong. But then I also feel that music is the vehicle. Of prominence is Gurbani. It is how you portray Gurbani to the listener. Are you touching the listener. And if your music cannot do that, you can be one of the greatest classical ragis in the world. But if you are more immersed in your own art rather than presenting the message, then I think you're wasting your time.
When people are hungry, they're not going to be fussing over whether it's on a silver platter or on a plastic plate.
Exactly, exactly. So, and that has always been my style. As I said, I picked up a lot of things from my father. One of the greatest things he taught me was, listen, when it comes to true spiritual, deep sort of meditation, Naam Simran, in music, the most important note is the silence between the notes.
Beautiful.
The silence between the notes is the most important note.
That's very Zen of you.
Well, there you are. So when it comes to slow Kirtan, these days I don't hear any slow Kirtan anymore. We used to get it from the greats like Bhai Sahibs, Singh.
Yeah.
And I remember my father, and there were times, I remember when I first heard Bhai Sahibs, going back 30, 40 years, it was in South Hall, I remember. There were times I thought the gentleman has fallen asleep. Because he used to drag the shabad. But you will hear the Sangat sitting there and swooning away because they are enjoying the silence.
Yeah.
I remember one shabad, Satgur ka jo Sikh khai. Jo Satgur ka jo Sikh khai. Satgur ka so phal ke उठ हर नाम ते आए सतगुर का जो सिख खाए सतगुर का. Lot of spaces in between. And that is the way Kirtan used to be presented by some of the greats previously. These days, the tabla player is more interested in making sure that there are two microphones focused on his tabla. And I call it popcorn Kirtan. I call it popcorn Kirtan. Because it is more entertainment rather than touching the spirit. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do fast Kirtan. Mool Mantra is a classic example of doing fast Kirtan as well. But the variety, I think, is very important. Using that as a vehicle, using music as a vehicle to present the message, and also getting a deep sense of Simran within yourself.
I have seen some people are renewing interest in studying Drupad style,
yes,
which can be very slow, you know.
Yes.
And
yes.
you, as a listener, you have to really put aside your expectations that you're going to be entertained, and just get into the nod, get into the sound, the deep spiritual sound, as you say, maybe between the notes even.
That's right. One of the exponents I've been listening to recently is Bhai Bapdeep Singh. Bhai Bapdeep Singh, in fact, he's been in touch with me. I'm going to do a special interview with him as well. He knows the Drupad style, and in fact, he plays the Mardangam himself. And when he presents something, there is a very deep sense of spirituality just exuding from him. And he's a purist. He's very true to his form. If you ever come across Bhai Bapdeep Singh,
I know
listen
him.
Listen to him. Absolutely amazing. You do get this, and thank God there are people like that who are actually carrying this Drupad style forward as well. I was very unfortunate. I did not get the chance to learn this Drupad style. And but whenever I get the opportunity of listening to someone like that, it's always a great pleasure.
You know, I often tell people that these expectations we have that, oh, you know, I wish I had had that opportunity to go and study with that teacher and learn that. You know what? We each are given what we are needing to use to do what we do, and you have everything you need, and you're doing it beautifully.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I wonder if
the other thing which I must make mention is that like I said, I have this run-in with the purists. I have never come across any indication anywhere in Sikhi that you must stick to just the classical rags. I have not come across that. But I have come across many pangatis in Gurbani
say that, yeah.
which say, do not get enamored by these rags. They are just a vehicle. Vehicle towards Nam. Kirtan is a vehicle leading you towards Nam. It is not an end-all by itself. It is merely a vehicle. And I think the purists should remember that and encourage youngsters in whichever direction they are moving. I've got lovely youngsters, I think you would have seen on the video as well. Youngsters who are playing the vibraphone, the guitar, the piano. I encourage that. We have a Kirtan competition in Sydney when we have the camp. And it's amazing the kind of instrument youngsters come up with and the presentations that they do. Absolutely. You have the elders like me, with tears in their eyes to say, no, this is what our younger generation can do. You cannot restrict them to one kind of music. You need to be able to allow them to explore their own creativity, keeping the Shabad uppermost.
I think it's a very useful thing to remember with young students. It doesn't matter what instrument they play, because it's not the instrument, it's how do they have an experience with the Gurbani. And I saw a video of you talking about this where you said you don't want students to start with the vajra, with the harmonium.
No, exactly.
You want them just to start with listening and singing. Get that to the level where they can, have an experience with it.
That's right.
Later on, they can add any instrument they want.
Anything
as support. Yeah.
My father never taught me the vajra. I never taught my daughters the vajra. My father taught me how to sing. I teach my daughters how to sing. The vajra came naturally. This is not an instrument. This is merely to assist me to present my voice. But these days, the way Kirtan is being taught, the whole focus is on the harmonium. Everything is lost in the harmonium. The spiritual aspect, the reaching within, is completely lost. Listen to some of the youngsters singing, and sometimes it's very sad to see why are they doing this. And the youngsters are not enjoying it either.
Yeah, exactly.
Let them enjoy their Kirtan.
Last week, I had a guest from the UK, a young woman. Her name is Taran Kaur, and she plays guitar. Yes. And she was really delightful to talk with, and she's such a beautiful example of someone who can see beyond the instrument and just have an experience with the Gurbani, and it's wonderful.
That's right.
So,
Bhai
Sahib, I think we only have a few more minutes, and everybody is going to get mad at me if I don't ask you if you could sing for a few minutes, anything, 3-4 minutes, and then we'll come back and say our goodbyes and finish up the program. Would you be so kind?
It will be a pleasure. Very simple Shabad. Hey Gobind, hey Gopal, hey Diyal. And I'd like everyone to sing, reach within, feel it within. It's in Rag Sarang, I think it is. So let's enjoy. Everyone, let's enjoy this particular Shabad. Close your eyes. Reach deep within yourselves. Hey Gobind, hey Gopal, hey Gobind, hey Gopal, hey Diyal. Hey Gobind, hey Gopal, hey Gobind, hey Gopal, hey Diyal. Anath Sakhe, Pranath, Anath Sakhe, Deen दर्द निवार हे गोविंद हे गोपाल हे गोविंद हे गोपाल हे दयाल हे समरथ अगम पूरण हे समरथ अगम पूरण मोहि मया अंधकूप महाभयान अंधकूप महाभयान नानक पर उतार हे गोविंद हे गोपाल हे गोविंद हे गोपाल हे दयाल हे गोविंद हे गोपाल हे गोविंद हे गोपाल हे दयाल हे दयाल हे दयाल
Just beautiful, Bhai Sahib.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Pratibha, thank you very much for having us.
Yes, and people are asking in the comments about when you'll be touring in the West. We would love to see you in person.
It's all on YouTube and programs like this.
All right. Well,
like I said, I just reached 70, and traveling is a little bit difficult now. But who knows? It's
well, we will love it if it happens, but we understand if it doesn't. And I want to say to all the listeners, please be sure to share this program and like it, and check out Bhai Sahib's recordings on YouTube and elsewhere. He's got a vast depth of range in Gurbani and world music, so it's beautiful listening, and we're so grateful again to you, Bhai Sahib, for joining us. And I think we even had the honor of hearing your daughter singing with you during
yes,
that.
Sitting on my side.
Yes,
don't forget, it's 5 a.m. in the morning here, so it's Amrit Vela for us.
Yes, well, thank you for sacrificing your early morning to be with us.
No, I wouldn't be doing anything more. This is what I would prefer to be doing. Thank you very much.
Well, again, thank you, Ji. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.